This is Darius Oliver, and you're listening to 92.1 KXVS, the voice of Stockton.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Good evening and welcome to Rams Hockey with your host, Rick Pulaski, and co-host, Mr. Zachary Lytle. Our special guests tonight are the Bird family. They are related to Mike Bird, NBC Sports. We have Miss Shannon Bird and Bobby Bird. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, you can speak. This is a speaking part for you, Bobby. It's okay. Don't turn into Max on me, okay? All right. Here we go. We got a lot of stuff to discuss. We haven't been on the air for about 30 days, so a lot of stuff have happened. Good stuff, some stuff that we're learning from, and we're going to get on with it. We're going to get to you. We're going to get you into the show a little bit, and then we're going to start asking you some real tough questions. Okay, so be prepared. All right. On the weekend of November 9th and 10th, I believe, is when we played. Coach, we were up in Tahoe for a game, and then we came down here and played. Kind of give us a little background on that for the people who didn't follow us.
We went up to Tahoe on Saturday, had a mishap with our travel, so we had to turn around and come back and start over. So it put us a little bit late, and then we got up there, and the Tahoe team played with a lot of emotion. And we're running around, just hitting everybody. And our guys were a little bit like, whoa, like, what's going on here?
Not used to that.
Yeah, they weren't used to it. And so I don't remember what the final score was. Tahoe won. And the fix, easy to say it's easy, but the fix was pretty easy. Just move the puck and skate. And that's what we did on Sunday, and then we won that game. Yeah,
it was kind of a nice victory. We got to do a live broadcast from the Oak Park rink. It was a good time. The kids came out and they played hard. We got up to a 3-0 start, 3-0 at the end of one, and then they came back on us 3-3 in the second, and at the end of two we're tied. They go up 4-3, and our kids never gave up. They came back.
It was encouraging at that point in the season because everybody was fighting hard and working hard together. And if you look back at all the games we played, you can look at our team and see that we do ourselves in. The other teams don't really beat us. It's just that we do ourselves in most of the time. And in that game, up 3-0, they sort of stopped playing for about 5 minutes, and Tahoe came back. And when they scored the goal to go up 4-3, Derek and I were talking about this, that never thought for a second we weren't going to win the game. It's just the way we were playing.
From what I've seen from the games I've been to, watched a lot of them when you were gone on TV, the team seems not to ever give up. That's something that you got to tip your hat to these younger kids. Talked to one of the players after your second or third game when you played the Christian team up in Minnesota. They said that was a very good team, but most of their players are 17, 18-year-old players, and we have quite a few freshmen and sophomore. We only have, like we've talked about many times, the only 2 seniors. So,
well, one of the kids, Itai, one of the Israelis, he just turned 14. Like a month or so ago.
Right. He was 13 when he came here.
And he probably was the best player we had over the weekend.
That's good. And like I said, you watch these boys mature as we're going through the season. I think they finally got the school thing down. Time management, we talk about that a lot. They're finally starting to get it. Now we're almost through the next semester, right? We're in two quarters, I guess. And the boys are starting to come around. The grade averages you see are coming up. Even the ones that suffered a little bit in the front end of the school year. But it seems like they're starting to gel more and buying into you and Coach Eisler's.
Well, I think it's just learning the patterns and how things work timing wise. You know you have to be here at a certain time, so you got to take care of stuff, and it just becomes habit.
Yeah, the boys are getting more used to it now. We just took a change in their strength and conditioning. It started today, as a matter of fact, and that brings me over to Miss Shannon Bird. She's the mother of this young man that's with us tonight, Bobby Bird. She also has one of the players living with her from out of town. So, Shannon, tell me how that's been for you, or how you got involved in it. Speaking.
It actually was kind of a last minute for us. We had offered that we could, take a hockey player if needed, and I don't know what the original thoughts were, but probably trying to keep these kids with people who were on the teams, right? I mean, that's
right.
Kind of a good way to do it. For us, we have Jack Hansen. His brother actually plays with Bobby. So we have known the family for a little while, so it was a good match for us, and really nice for Bobby. He's got 2 older brothers that are now off at school.
And one of them plays hockey, correct, or has played hockey?
Yes. His older brother is a goalie.
And his name is David, right?
His older brother, David, goalie. Just loves hockey, and that's part of what obviously got Bobby started. I think I remember many a day at free skate with Bobby pushing a bucket around, following his brothers around, trying to keep up, and then it, huh?
It started with Aaron, right? Though.
Well, yeah, his middle brother's actually what started hockey for us. He wanted to play really badly, and he did, and he quit within a year or two, and
it's not for everybody.
Not for everybody.
So.
And then my other 2 have obviously been all in. So Bobby, from a very young age, has been dragged from rink to rink to rink. And, I remember some hockey practices laying blankets out in the back of Oak Park Arena, and he's sleeping on them, because he's tired. So
you've been a rink rat quite a few years, huh, Bob?
Forever.
Yeah.
So tell me how it is for you now. For people that don't know, tell them who you play for now and who you're going to be playing for next year.
I play for the Colts, which is the rink that the St. Mary's practices at. And I'm hoping to play for St. Mary's next year, and hoping that I could be accepted by everybody in the locker room and everybody on the team, and really get into the emotion of the weights and everything.
Hoping's probably a strong word. He cannot wait.
He
wishes it would happen right now.
Bobby practices with the St. Mary's team, twice a week or 3 times? I'm not sure.
3 times, sometimes 4.
And so you said fitting into the locker room. I don't think that's an issue with you. I mean, I have not heard anything negative about that, so I think that's a good feeling for you.
Well, it's not really negative. It's just being the youngest youngest there, and not really at the high school yet. So it's a little bit weird, but
He's in an awkward spot because he's part of the team, but he's not part of the team.
yeah.
Right.
So it's sort of like, where do I fit in best, and how does this work? So.
And you've played with some of the kids on the boys, not kids any longer, boys on the team.
Yeah.
Who have you played with on the team?
I've played with Anthony, Luca. I think that's it. I think that's the only 2 I've played with, really.
And going from your practices with St. Mary's and then how it relates to you with the Colts, do you think it's improved your game, or where do you?
I think it's definitely improved my game. It's also improved the length I could skate at, because I'm not only skating now 2 times a week, and then every once in a while hopping on the ice for 3 times a week. I'm skating every single day, and so I can actually skate the whole game and not get as tired as I did before.
That's good. And so your game with the Colts have probably improved then, right?
Yeah,
From
it definitely improved.
Good. So it's a good experience. I know the boys are happy to have you out there because you're an additional body on a team that we don't have that many players, so it gives them a little bit of a more respite during the practices, right?
Yeah.
Well, he keeps them honest, too. Bobby's a good player.
Yes, he is, yeah. This young man I've known for, I don't know how many, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it's been, and Bobby spurted. I'm going to have his mom speak on that in the last year or so. He's probably growing, I'm thinking 2 or 3 inches. I could be off. But
A lot. Just a couple of days ago, I took a double take and looked at him and go, wait, what happened? like an inch below me now. It seems like it's happened very quickly.
Yeah. From that standpoint, where do you see your hockey career going? Or where is your ambition? What's your goal?
My goal is to make it as far as possible. What I really want to do is go to Arizona State and play on their hockey team, and then try to get to the professionals. I don't care what level, because I could get further and further if I make it to any team. But my overall goal is to just be the best hockey player I could be.
Well, that's good. That's what anybody would want, wouldn't you say, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go again. It's my partner.
Duh. I have one good Bobby Bird story.
Go ahead, give it to us.
To me, it's funny, and it's only to me. But I'm sure
His mom's
his
mom's here.
Well, his mom
Okay.
sees this thing. She sees this same story almost every day. But I think you were maybe 10, maybe 11. It was a couple of years ago at least. And he would come out and skate in the summer at the rink. So he was skating with me, and his brother David was a goalie. And David was already away at college at that point, or on his way.
Mm-hmm.
So he's full grown. So it's man and boy. And David didn't care how little Bobby was. He just beat the tar out of him. And Bobby just kept getting up and going right back at him like a small little dog yipping at him. It was hilarious to me. I love that. That was so funny.
And that's why you're not afraid in any situation. I've watched you play over the years, and your admiration for the game or your intensity of the game is there. Your dad and I have had talks. He says, sometimes I just don't think he's with it. I said, well, Mike, that's not an easy game. By the way, that's Mike Bird, NBC Sports. Anyhow, his dad will say, well, sometimes I don't think he's giving his full effort. I said, but, the thing is we all have to figure out where we're at. And is it tough to get, when we're going on and sometimes we're on landslide games against us. How do you keep an attitude up? How would you approach that? I mean, you're losing quite a bit, but there's still a lot of game time left. So how do you approach that?
I just look at it the best I can. If we're losing, then there's really only one thing we could do, and that's get better at the game and be better. If we can't make it to first place or we can't make it to playoffs, then we have to be better as a team and be better people and get fit for the next season so we can be in a better position to win.
Yeah. Go ahead. You had something?
I was looking at the shirt back there. I was trying to figure out what that said.
I think for Bobby and taking this into account, and this may, flow into a little of what St. Mary's is going to, is that, you do obviously have those rough years and the years of growing where your teams are really not doing well, right? You're the bottom of the pack. You might not win at all. You might only win a couple of games. There's a lot of learning that goes on in those types of games. Bobby's been obviously on quite a few of those teams. And then last year he was on a team and they ended up going all the way and winning states. And so there's some pride to take in that, right?
Right,
my work
absolutely.
hard is paid off. All my work's paid off. I've learned my lessons. I've learned how to lose, but I can win. I can play hard enough and I can win. And, obviously St. Mary's is taking their time pulling that together too. And I just in my watching of the practices and the games, the games have been incredible to watch, seeing them progress and you can see where they're going, which is neat to see because you see that progression coming for that team as well.
Yeah.
That it's going to come to that point.
Tell me how it felt. You've got something that nobody else that's around this in the hockey area here. You're in the Hall of Fame, dude. You are in the Hall of Fame, the Stockton Hall of Fame, but it's still the Hall of Fame. And if you notice the other people that were being inducted, some of them weren't around anymore, and some of them were old as I am, which is pretty old. But how did that make you feel? You're on a 24-0 team, and there you were. Go ahead.
It made me feel pretty good. It made me feel really special, especially since we had that group of kids who really went through the season no matter what the circumstance was or no matter how good or bad we felt on that day. Also, there was a couple games we had to battle through with teams like that figured us out early in the seasons, and it came out really close at the end, but we pulled it off.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, I was impressed that you guys were picked for the Stockton Hall of Fame. I mean, that's an accomplishment that not a lot of people can say they have. So, tip to you and the Colts for doing a great job. And who was your coach? That was
it was Derek and then Jeff.
I just opened the doors.
Oh, you were punt pusher.
Door opener. That was it. All I did was open the doors.
All right, let's go into next year. A little bit of next year for the. We're not halfway through this season. However, we do have, from my understanding, almost eight committed recruits for next year. That says a lot for the program. It's being in the first year program. What do you think about that, Zach?
Well, I think a lot of it is, I think it's Derek, for one thing. People want to play for Derek. And I think if we look back at the start of this season, like if Bobby were old enough, he would have been on the team.
Sure.
But there were kids that were looking at it and thinking, is it going to last? Do I want to go? And then maybe it doesn't work out, and now I have nowhere to play. And so they sort of rode the fence and then decided to not come. And I think next year, now that they see, all right, this program's for real,
right,
they're going to come. So,
yeah, I've listened to a few of the commentators when you've been playing down south and back east. They were talking about how young our team is and where the future is going to be for these kids. I mean, it only can be up. When you went to Minnesota this time, you lost all four. But we've talked many times on this show about wins and losses are not necessarily a great way to measure a team. So we've talked in the locker room, you and I and Coach, but what did he say how he felt about the team coming out of Minnesota?
Well, we have some work to do with this group. There's a little disconnect right now where we're not playing to our potential, but we'll work through it. But we always take the long view or the big picture.
Right.
And the big picture, long view, is that we could go recruit older kids and try and be good right now, or we can recruit younger kids that are coming into high school as freshmen and make something that's long-lasting and can build year after year after year. And it takes more time to do it that way, and it's a little more effort. But at the end, it becomes self-sustaining.
Right.
And that's what we're after.
Yeah, that's basically what we did with the Colts when I first got involved, and Derek got involved pretty close to the same time. And we've built that club from the bottom up. So we got, talk about mini mites and all these things. These are kids that playing at 6 and under that are, we have 25 kids already for the next session. So that's how Derek grows a team. He grows it from young to old. It's nice to get a few older guys in there because, like I said, this league's the Duck League and then the North American Prospect League that we play in Minnesota. They're usually older boys that have been playing. It's the same age these kids are, but they're not that age yet. So,
well, every program we played is not their first year.
Right. No, and that's
right.
Big too. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because there's a lot of little things that we're going through the small things that we're fixing along the way. But I think the overall picture and the overall program is going to sustain and move on, like you just said. I think the boys are bought into the program, and they're coming together. Some of the kids that aren't loud in the locker room, so to speak, or they're all starting to talk to everybody about we're a team. Win, lose, or loss, whether you like this guy or you don't like this guy, or you may think the coach is on your rear end. Everybody's there for one reason, is to get better, right? And the coaches are there to push you to the maximum that you can. I mean, that's how you grow, by being pushed. If they lay back and say, you know what, Johnny, you did a great job, he's not going to progress. He's going to stay at the same level. And we see that along NorCal. And I'm not putting NorCal down, but we see a lot of that in a lot of clubs that everybody gets a participation trophy, and that's not what it's about. If you have aspirations like Bobby to go to a D1 school, you got to push yourself. You got to understand you make mistakes, and what am I going to do to correct it? And that's where these guys Coach Zach and Coach Derek get out there and want you to get better.
Well, one of the things that we noticed is we don't warm up well for games. Everybody's sort of, they look lost almost. Like, I don't know what to do. How do I warm up? That's what it looks like. And if you take that even on a bigger level, they don't know how to get to junior. They don't know how to get to college playing hockey. So they need a guy like Derek that knows the route and knows what the expectation is. And there's no gray area. Like, you either are doing it the right way or you're not. And he'll always remind you, sometimes nice, sometimes not, about how to fix what's needing to be fixed.
Right.
There's a great movie called Whiplash. And there's a line in the movie, the two worst words in the American language or the English language is good job. It's the worst thing you can say to somebody, good job, because it just takes all the pressure of being good off of them.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I was listening to Coach talk to one of the boys that are be coming hopefully next year to St. Mary's after practice yesterday morning, and he said, all these kids want to go to these showcases and they want to do this to show their talents off, and he says they'll be recruited by him. Every team out there, every junior team, all want players. They all need players. So if you went to a showcase, Bobby, you're too young to play in that league, but they're going to ask you to commit to them and do this, and you feel pretty good about yourself. But Derek is not that guy to send people to these showcases. He'd rather send you to a camp that fits your type of hockey, and you still wouldn't play for that team, but you go out there and try out with them or practice with them. You get a feel of them, and you know where your game needs to go. Going back to Coach Jack, I think that's a big plus for us that we have somebody that's been through the ranks, and you've been through there. You're not you give him a lot of credit, but you're a good dude too, and you know hockey and you know places for kids to play, and so that tends to get the kids to understand that there's more out here. We're trying to get one kid to understand it this year, right? That he's a senior.
Yeah.
This is his only spotlight, because once this is over, he's got to hopefully get picked up by somebody or whatever. So his window of opportunity is Neil, right? Bobby's, yours is this big because you're just going into it. So, but every year counts, and every play counts, and every shift counts.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know when somebody's going to watch you play.
Yeah, you don't know. But I'm going to ask Shannon a question about being a goalie mom. I mean, David was a goalie for years, and, that's where the puck goes by the other team scores on. But how is that? I don't know if you sat in the stands when he was playing, or how did you handle that? Because either he's a bum or he's a hero. He's no in between.
I always said it was the worst parent position ever because, yes, rationally you can understand that there's 5 other people on the ice, right? It has to get through 5 of them before it gets to that last one, right? But, where is the focus? You're either the hero because you stopped it, got past all 5 of your guys, but, the puck stops here, basically, or you don't, and a lot rests on that. So it's hard as a parent because you just want to see your kids succeed all the time, which is not good for them to only succeed. They've got to fail, but it's hard to watch them fail and to have the ups and downs. And so yeah, when Bobby started skating, I think there was one point he looked at me and goes, "Mom, I want to be a goalie like David," and I went, no way.
No way.
Mom's not doing it twice.
Yeah, that's got to be tough on a parent to sit up there and have somebody, that kid stinks, or he's no good, or whatever they say. That's probably nice what they say, but, we were watching practice today, you and I, and we watched this goaltender. I don't know if he's throwing a fit or you could tell he's angered by slamming the stick against the cage, and you looked at me and it was, tell the audience what you said, because it was classic.
I just said, doesn't he know that's their goal? When you watch, and again, that comes from a goalie parent's perspective, right? A goalie goes into practice, well, almost every drill, right, is set up for those players to learn how to score against the goalie. And they play until they score. and it's 2 on a goalie, it's 3 on a goalie. It's usually somewhat stacked on the offensive side. So, as I said, it's very difficult to be a goalie. It takes the right kind of personality. I mean, my older son would do nothing but that. I mean, and he absolutely loves it, and he still plays today. He chose to go to Pepperdine, which doesn't actually have a hockey program, and so he drives across the hill to Simi Valley, and he wouldn't play any other position.
That's where Mike from NBC Sports grew up, right?
It is where he grew up. It is, but I think it's a very difficult position. It's a difficult position in practice, and in a game, it's hard because you don't want to let the pucks in.
And from a coaching standpoint, you guys are pushing these kids everybody, and then how do you handle a goaltender that's maybe let in 3 goals in a period or 4, and you're thinking, oh, you buckets. Yeah, there's not much. I know physically there's not much you can do or whatever, but
you can try and change the momentum a little bit. You can call a timeout. You can switch the goalies. You can pull them out, put them back in, talk to them.
So how does that? And here I am a goalie. I just let up 3 goals, and you go, "Hey, Rick, you're out."
What kind of 3 goals did you give up? Were they
bad ones? They're all bad. If I'm in the net, they're all bad.
And you just sit at the end of the bench and think about it the rest of the game, and we hope that the other guy that goes in doesn't give up as many bad ones.
Because there's only 2 sides of the bench, right? Yeah. You'd be at one end, and I'd be at the other. But so that's tough.
Now we talked like in Minnesota. Our goaltending was not as good as it had been, and we talked to the 2, and Tristan played the majority, but we talked to both of them about what do you take away from this weekend. There's a reason why some of these goals are going in, and we can fix it, but you have to be aware of what the problem is. And so we talked them through it, and hopefully they're working on it in practice.
Yeah. I had some questions from Gene Brown, so let me get back to my questions here. Here's a good one. I don't know how to answer this, so I'm going to ask any of our astute panel here. How do you recommend to break out of a slump? That's a good one. I like that.
Break out of a slump. That's a good one. There's lots of different ways.
Well, it depends on what the issue is, right?
I mean, you could get dressed, put your left shoe on first instead of your right shoe. That's one.
Is there a lot of superstition in hockey?
I would imagine. Yeah.
When you played, was there?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Routines. They're called routines, not superstitions.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
How do you?
There's a.
Do the same thing every time?
We're having this discussion right now because Bobby's having some high games and some low games, and he's figuring out how to make them a little more even.
I don't know. I'm figuring that out right now, how to get out of a slump. But
how many goals did you have in your last game?
I don't know. I think 4.
Yeah, it's a good slump.
Yeah, but the game before.
The game before I had none, and they scored 4 on us, and I could have done a lot more of that game.
So like years, we'll forecast years down the road.
It's like Jack trying to learn stick shift.
You're gonna have.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah, that's good. You're gonna have mom yelling at you as a senior. Get your butt in gear.
Yeah, I think
that's how you bust a slump right there.
You just got to go back, and we've talked about this. Sometimes as a player, you make the game more difficult than it is because you're trying to do too much instead of using your teammates. Or I heard this word a lot, and you can help me on this one, Zach. Trust. There's got to be a trust factor that when I pass the puck to your mom, that she's going to do what she's supposed to do with it, and then whatever, right? But if we're all trying to, I got to be the one to get us out of this thing, and so I overskate with the puck. Somebody hits my stick or hits me, and the puck goes the other way. So,
well, to go back to that question from Mr. Brown, to me, it's just confidence, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a mentally strong person with a good positive outlook, you're not going to dip much. You might have an off day where you're like, geez, what happened today? But then you bounce right back. Right. But if you're a little bit of the woe is me type and you let little things affect you big, then it takes a lot longer to bring that positive attitude back up. So that, some of those kids, they're too hard on themselves. It's amazing how much they beat themselves up over just one mistake. It's like, move on, man. It's a fast game.
Yeah.
You're going to let that bother you for the next 5 minutes? Let's go.
Yeah.
And they need to really work on that. It's over.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next thing and be positive.
That's how
about
I
it.
treat life now, Zach. If it,
see that.
if it happened in the past,
see
we
that.
got to keep moving forward because you can't go back and fix anything that you've done, good, bad, or indifferent. It's already done. You got to keep thinking about the future and what you're going to do, and that's easy to say,
Yeah.
tough to do. But if I'm at this, I've been through a lot over my 64 years on this earth. But that's what I try to do. You know, if you have an issue, try to deal with it at the time and then move on because it's not going to change. So.
Well, and if you're in a slump, right? I mean, that's what it talks about.
Right.
Then find something from within you that you can do, right? Does that mean that you skate a little harder, you know, or make a little bigger effort to create something? Whether you're trying to, you know,
Sure.
get a guy to pass a little faster than he should, or something, you know, something that you can add if something else is not working. I mean, it's all, you know, pulling from what you know and what can you put a little extra effort into, and the rest will come back to you.
It's going back to basics,
Yeah.
and that's even in the line of work that I do. Early on, it was tough for me because I didn't know what I was doing. Number one, and number two, I wasn't consistent, and I would start getting nervous that I haven't sold enough cars, and I'm halfway through the month, and I got bills to pay, and you know, I've been doing it 35 years, so I got it pretty much dialed in now. You don't worry about it. You just go out and keep doing what you're supposed to do, and it'll be there at the end. Maybe not as much as you think, but at least it'll be there. So you just got to keep persevering and put stuff behind you.
Yeah,
Put
you
it.
got to move forward.
Here's another good question. How do you develop players' skills that are outside of their comfort zone? Anybody? How do you push yourself to, man, I don't do a backhand. I'm not good at my backhand. How do you get, I'm just using that as an example, but it could be anything. How do you get through that to make your backhand better or whatever the situation might be?
For me, it's a lot of trial and error. When I was young, I would only pivot on my right foot, and I wouldn't be able to use my left foot whatsoever.
This is my favorite Derek Bobby Bird story.
I like it.
And I think it was during a Wiley winter extension, but I wouldn't use my left foot, and I refused. And the drill was to go around a tire and pivot on your left foot and skate backwards. But instead of pivoting on my left foot, I would jump and pivot on my right foot. And coach caught me and stopped the whole practice.
For about 10 minutes.
For about 10 minutes.
And was he talking very nicely to you in a soft voice?
No,
Bobby?
No, he wasn't. He was yelling at the top of his lungs. But I couldn't mentally trick myself to pivot with my left foot, so I continued to pivot with my right foot until I finally just did it and I fell down. And then
Well, it was painful
really,
to watch because he
it
would
was-
fall and fall and fall.
And once I fell down, he just continuously made me do it until I stayed up or until I barely wobbled. And I learned how to use my left foot or stop on my left foot. So it was a lot of trial and error for me with all my things. To shoot with my backhand, it was a lot of go through the motions slowly, and then you could start doing it a little bit faster. But
Well,
yeah.
and to never give up,
Yeah,
right? And that's
definitely.
what we're talking about.
If you fail once, you could get it.
How does it, I don't know how to word this, but when the coach is doing that, called you out in front, and he's extremely loud, a lot of people in today's soft society, I'm trying to be politically correct, would have an issue with that. But how do you, I have a grandson that plays and has been in the same situation, so I know what the answer is for him. But what is the answer for you? Do you just go, this guy's trying to make me feel bad, or what are you thinking at that point?
I look at it as there's a purpose to it. He's not just doing it to make me feel bad. And it's, I don't know where I heard this or where I read it, but I heard or read it somewhere where when the coach stops yelling at you, that's not when you're doing a good job. That's when the coach stops caring about you, because you just don't listen to him or anything. So I take it as a compliment when he yells at me, because he wants me to get better and he knows I can. And I just try to skate harder.
Oh, wow. That, my friends, is coming from a 13-year-old young man sitting in front of me. You've learned a lot, and I don't know who taught you all that stuff, probably Mom and Mike Bird from NBC Sports and your coaching staff, but wow, that is impressive. And I wish that everybody that listens to our podcast listen to that very distinctly, because there's so much with the parents getting involved in their kids. And I know Shannon and been around the family for a while. A lot of times, because you have all these kids you got to cart around and go to ABC different places, that you drop your young man off at the rink, make sure he gets inside, and then off you go to whatever tasks you have. So that's a good thing. I think if you feel comfortable with the coaching, that's the thing to do. And try to understand what the coaches are getting. We have a lot of parents that hang around. I'm not talking about the St. Mary's team right now, but in the Colts, and they have issues with the yelling, but they're not understanding the whole full process. So, as a parent, what would you say to them to get them over the hump that this guy's not bullying my kid, or he's not, setting him out, making an example of him? He's, well.
I guess I've just been brought up to have a view that, in my opinion, youth sports are to build a character. They're to build your man from your boy. It's not about winning. It's not about all of the things that a lot of people put a lot of pressure on. To me, it's about them learning to listen to that authority figure, respect it, try harder, follow directions, work as a teammate. They're learning life skills from it all. So
absolutely,
to me, when you have good people in charge of those types of that are leading your kids in those positions, in those coaching positions, and I feel like we've been lucky with Bobby through the Colts that all of those coaches have been that way for him. You let them do their job. My job as a mother is to be a cheerleader, right?
Right.
And I know you say don't say good job, but that's my job, right? My job is yay. I love you. Keep trying. And their job is to tell them no, not good enough. Keep going.
Exactly.
And I can't say I'm always good at that. As I said, after his last bad game, he and I got into it a little bit, but I try very hard never to go there.
But you're
That's
a competitive person by nature anyhow. Yeah. So what do you think about that, Coach? I mean, you always get it from the other end. Like, you're bullying my kid, or how come you talk to my kid that way? Or,
I've never heard that before.
Well, maybe it was me telling you that. But no, but that type of a parent that wants to tell you how to coach their kid, I never understood that.
I used to, a long time, not that long ago, but before I went to Israel, I used to have a meeting with the parents at the very beginning, and I would tell them, listen, I'm not here to get to know you. Like, we're not going to have it for friendship.
I remember that meeting.
And
look at us
I've
now.
been one of those too.
Yeah, and parents are going to do what they do, and that's fine. But when Bobby says what Bobby just said, and players like that, like him, have that mindset, it makes all the other nonsense worth it.
Absolutely.
Because okay, there's somebody there that really cares about what they're doing, and that's the most important thing, is you have to care about what you're doing and who you're doing it with, and be passionate and have that desire to keep getting better. And, it's not an easy path. You're going to butt heads. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be resolution. There's going to be lots of stuff going on. And the ones that survive it are the ones that keep going.
Right. I mean, that's when I was in school and coached, that's how it was. I mean, I know we're getting to a different age of coaching or whatever. I don't know that that's right or wrong. It's just a different way of doing it, and I don't know that the results are the same. What you said, Shannon, was very on point to me. that they're growing a child into a man, and that's life skills, not just with hockey. They could be in football or whatever, but you're teaching the kid respect, responsibility, and work ethic.
Well, and we'll be honest, right? How many of the kids that start playing in their youth sports make a professional team, right? That's not everybody's path, but
Right.
everybody can learn something from sports.
Absolutely.
So-
Absolutely. So I'm going to get your take on this because we just had a change in strength coach at St. Mary's. A guy that's been there, I can't tell you how long, but I know he coached you or was your strength coach at the UOP. Coach John McBride has left the school to do some private work. I think it's a big loss for the school. However, who's the new coach?
I don't know their name.
I don't
Brandon,
know.
I think. Is
Brandon.
Yeah.
And the boys were with him, I believe, on Monday was their first day. They're very thankful for him to step in, and he's doing a great job. But I don't want McBride to go away without people giving him the respect that man deserves. He's been there for a lot of years. He's put his kids through there. So he's got to be there 20, 25 years, I'm guessing, at the time. And he was your strength coach way back in it was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Shannon, so tell me how he was because that came up in a conversation with us. How was he with you, and what your take on him is?
You know, my recollection of him, I want to say I was there his first year or second, when we first started. I played basketball for UOP. And he's very passionate about what he does, cares about the people doing the exercises correctly so that they don't get hurt and doing them appropriately for their sport. I mean, that was the feeling I got from him through school. So I haven't talked to him much. I've talked to him a little since I've seen him here and with St. Mary's, but obviously those personalities don't change.
Yeah.
I know he does. He is passionate about what he does.
And we just like to say, McBride, wherever you go, you'll be good. So hang in there, brother, and do the things that make your life enjoyable at this stage of life. So I just wanted to get that in because he was part of our hockey initiation program. Next, I don't want to get in next year because this year's not over with, but what is your goals going forward for the rest of this year? And then maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the future. We got a future sitting in front of us here, I know, but
Well, I think for me, the goal for this season, the rest of this season, is to get them at a point where when we come back next year with this new group of kids that, they're well versed in what's going on and can lead the new group. Like right now, like I mentioned earlier, they're a little bit lost on a couple of things that we need to tighten up, and we got a lot of time to fix that, and we will. But the goal for me is just to make sure that they all have good routine, good habit, and then when they come back with a new group of kids, it just starts from where we left off.
excuse me. Now, I know that we're playing on the 14th, 15th, I believe, of this month in Southern California.
Yeah, we're down in Anaheim. We play Santa Margarita both days.
Now, Santa Margarita is a fairly good team, and both days you're playing back-to-back. But then we go into a hiatus. Are we going on hiatus a little bit during Christmas, or what's our plans there? Because I know they're off.
They'll be off
from
I
the
think,
24th, which is
they're off school the 20th or 21st.
right.
And
That's
then,
that Friday. They're not at school.
And then I would assume, I haven't seen the plan yet, but I would assume they'll go home and visit family, and then they'll come back shortly after New Year's and resume practice to get ready for the next weekend.
Right. When are you going to Detroit?
That's Martin Luther King weekend.
Oh, okay. All right. So going forward now, we have some tough games. The Santa Margarita will not be an easy task for us.
Not at all. They're very
I don't know, where did they finish last year? I think John Bosco won it, but maybe they're in a different division.
They're in a different division. Santa Margarita won everything last year.
And one of the players is help me out. His dad's-
Timo Solani's kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pretty good kid. I watched him play. He seems to be
pretty
pretty good. Well, yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
He's got some future.
So we got to get the boys ready for that. Most of those teams are I shouldn't say non-checking, but they're more skill-oriented than physical.
It depends on who you play. Some of them are geared more towards being a physical team.
I noticed in Minnesota that the teams were not hard-checking teams. They were more finesse teams, more.
Well, the game's so fast. The way that, that level, they're moving so much faster that it's about puck control. And they had the puck more than we did, so there wasn't any reason to really hit us too much.
Yeah, right. Another question. We got another question. This came over. What have we been doing for skating and the player development? How can we develop smart decision making? What feedback does the team need to grow? What feedback does the team need to grow?
Well, for skating, they skate every day, so
Right.
that covers that. For decision making,
That's a tough one.
we run through system stuff. We fix things that aren't right. We play small games where they have to make quick decisions with puck. I said earlier, Itai was probably our best player this past weekend, and that was because he was the one kid that stood out. Where as the game got faster, he got more comfortable. Like, he looked better the faster the game got, whereas some of the other kids looked like, oh, it's starting to get a little fast. He's like, wow, this is right where I want it to be. So that's why he stood out. And so, we play small games and we do things at a high pace so that their decision-making has to be quick.
We've talked about in prior shows that the decision-making of a hockey player is, I can't think of another sport, maybe basketball, but it doesn't move at the speed that hockey does, to make decisions with that puck. I mean, there's so many decisions, whether you put it off the wall, you bank it, you try to thread the needle on a pass, where to go with the puck. And no coaches can really, I mean, they can yell from the bench, but it's well after the.
It's too fast for that.
Yeah,
You got to take it on your own. Like Bobby's grown up. Bobby's his decision making has been basic to a little more advanced, and every year it gets a little more advanced, a little more advanced, a little more advanced. Like last year, your big decision was, do I bomb it, miss the net, and break out the other team, or do I bomb it and hit the goalie? And so now as you get older, now your decisions have to come a little faster.
I had more assists than goals, so it wasn't all about bombing it and hitting the net and missing.
You did do those things, though, at times.
The Bobby Bird breakout. It's famous.
Yeah.
But you've learned, your game's come a long way from when I first started watching you. And you could tell that you enjoy being out there. Some of the other kids, I'm not so sure that they enjoy being out there, but it's a place for them to be. So it's good to see what you're doing, Bobby, and keep up the good work, going in the right direction. You got two great mentors. Your mom and dad are good people. Listen to them. Even though you think they don't know what they're talking about, they might have a little bit of that, right? We play, like I said, here in a couple weeks, and then we're going to be off for a while, but we do have a show on the 20th, so we'll get a show in before Christmas, before the Christmas hits. And any final thoughts?
I know that Bobby's really looking forward to it. He cannot wait to start.
And I want to thank you personally, Shannon. You did an outstanding job tonight, even though Mike Bird was a little skeptical. But
that I couldn't hold my own.
You did fantastic. And the makeup was fine. I mean, it's just perfect.
Good.
You
Glad to hear it.
You couldn't have done a better job. Bobby, thank you for coming. It was a pleasure having you here, young man. Seeing your future in hockey is going anywhere you want it to go, as long as you put into work, right?
Thank you.
Well, he's on his way back to hockey practice. To put
Yes,
he is.
We got to sign off here in a few seconds. Zach, any final comments?
No. I felt like I talked a lot tonight.
Oh, I don't know if that's talking or not. More like yelling. I don't know where Dustin went. Is he? Oh, you're such a small guy. Dustin Breakbill on the board tonight for us. I'll just leave you with my closing statement. We'll see you on December 20th, 6 p.m. right back here. Beautiful, the voice. And reach for the stars. Have a good evening, everybody. Good night.